up on Carolina Week, UNC is still feeling the effects of Hurricane Matthew.
With another presidential debate on the books, how are students and experts reacting?
Our beloved university celebrated its 223rd birthday. We'll show you the festivities, all that and more.
Carolina Week starts
right now.
From the UNC School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering Carolina in HD, this is Carolina Week.
The trial of former UNC student Chandler Kane is underway. We'll take you inside the courtroom. Hello, I'm Erin Wygant.
And I'm Jacqueline Lee, but first we go out on campus to see the damage after the storm. Hurricane Matthew hit the Triangle on Saturday. Heavy rain, high wind, and flooding left 19 people dead and billions of dollars in damage across North Carolina. Some of that damage happened right here at UNC. The university says it had emergency plans in place, but overall, the campus fared pretty well. The main issue was downed trees and limbs. The university hasn't been able to give us an exact estimate for the damage yet, but the campus saw about 5.5 inches of rain. One of the biggest losses on campus happened right here in front of Wilson Library. As reporter Donnie Holloway shows us, you might notice something familiar missing.
When you walk past the quad, you'll notice something different in front of Wilson Library. For more than 90 years, this tree was deeply rooted in the Carolina experience. But the forceful wind and rain during Hurricane Matthew changed that, leaving many shocked.
I didn't think it would have been that bad here. If this had happened at, like, say, College of Charleston, that's understandable, but I didn't think it happened in Chapel Hill.
Just to give you an idea of how big this tree is, as you can see behind me, the roots are taller than I am. And some even had a name for the tree.
A lot of times we meet our friends in Asheville down here on the quad, and we designated the tree behind us as the Asheville tree.
The day before Hurricane Matthew made its way to North Carolina, Bechtel took this photo.
So I had my husband take a picture of me in front of the Asheville tree, and I think that might be the last time there was a picture in front of it.
She says the tree reminds her of her days at Carolina, and she didn't want to leave campus without trying to recreate that special photo. Less than 48 hours later, crews moved in to remove the downed tree. The university says it plans to plant another tree in its place.
Crews have cleaned up campus, but in surrounding areas, there are still trees down and in some places, standing water. Just this morning, the governor urged people to continue using caution when on the roads.
The damage to North Campus wasn't the only damage felt by students during the weekend. UNC women's lacrosse team came home from a tournament in Maryland to an unexpected surprise: 19 totaled cars. The cars, parked at Finley Field, suffered severe flood damage after being completely submerged in water from the Hurricane Matthew. When the team returned on Sunday, all of the cars except one were completely dead. The only remaining water was in the cup holders, but that was little consolation. The team is working with university officials and insurance companies to cover the losses.
The trial of former UNC student Chandler Kane continued this week with some of Kane's friends taking the stand. On Thursday and Friday, Kane's friends testified about the night of the accident. Alex Pugh said he and others tried to stop Kane from getting into his car. UNC senior Rebecca Green testified to drinking with Kane that night before he left the bar. He's not here, just after having an argument with another friend. Orange County Medical Examiner Vincent Moylan testified about the passengers who died in the crash. DWI arrests in Chapel Hill have increased over the past few years. Police reported 221 DWI arrests in Chapel Hill in 2013, while 2014 saw 227. 2015 saw an even larger increase with a total of 261 arrests. But the trend is completely different in Carborough. In 2013, 128 DWI arrests were made. Carborough saw 91 DWI arrests in 2014 and just 63 arrests in 2015.
Officials still don't know what sound caused several thousand shoppers to rush out of Crabtree Valley Mall more than a month ago. Local police are turning to the FBI for answers. Anique Joseph reports.
That's the sound that stopped the dancing. And then, chaos.
All of that was accessible has been processed. And it has not produced an answer.
Raleigh Police spokesperson Jim Shagru says after a thorough investigation on its end, the department is reaching out to another agency.
Obviously, something created that that loud noise. We have sent a recording of the noise to the FBI.
The biggest question,
Was it a gunshot or wasn't it a gunshot?
some witnesses say there could have been up to 3 shots. Shopper Rachel Steep says she won't set foot across the street again. Steep was injured when she ran out of the mall. So serious, 2 men carried her to the parking lot.
I wasn't certain the first 2 times, but the second 2 times I was convinced that it must be gunshots.
Steep is no stranger to gunfire.
I own a weapon, and I have been on the range with my brother who's in the Marine Corps multiple times, and it sounds just like a gunshot to me.
The sound is now being analyzed at one of the largest crime labs in the world, located in Quantico, Virginia. The FBI hasn't said how long it will take to analyze this sound or when the report will be completed.
There were just a large number of calls that paint a picture of the situation that existed in that mall. We would certainly very much like to provide people with some answers about what happened.
The mall remained closed until noon the next day. In Raleigh, I'm Monique Joseph reporting.
The FBI is now working on the case. Raleigh police say they're still collecting witness statements. If you were in the mall that day, they ask you to contact them with any additional information.
Now moving to our top stories in politics, it's what everyone's been talking about this week. Presidential candidates Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump faced off on Sunday in their second presidential debate. Joining us is Dr. Joe Kaboski. He's a UNC professor here at UNC who runs a nonpartisan voter analytics website.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. So, Professor Kaboski, what does your data show about the performance of both candidates during the debate?
Well, we have to be really careful in some of the initial analysis. You have 2 major events. You had the release of a very controversial video on Friday evening that played through the weekend, followed by a very controversial debate on Sunday night. So we've got indications from Friday, Saturday, Sunday samples before the debate that the Clinton campaign definitely benefited by 5-6 points maybe in the initial surveys that we have. But we could have a very different effect in Monday and Tuesday samples from the debate, and all implications are that the Trump campaign has already pulled back a few of those points to make it a slightly closer race, but not as close as it was before the tape.
So would you say that there were major changes in the polls directly after?
There was definitely movement in the first 48 hours, and that's very common. More than anything, the Trump numbers tend to fall more than the Clinton numbers tend to climb. So when you have a candidate facing very negative coverage over the course of 48 hours, a lot of people can answer their surveys in a way that implies that they're leaving that candidate. By Monday or Tuesday, when those surveys are still in the field, some of those voters come back because voters don't actually move as much as some of these day-to-day swings might mean. Meaning, if we'll have a better sense by the end of this week, samples that are taken throughout the middle of the week to see how much noise has kind of evaporated based on those 2 very highly volatile events.
Yeah. How will the Trump recordings and the latest Clinton email hack affect the polls?
At this point, I think the race is so dug in that he may only lose a point, 2, 3 points. I think a lot of those voters will come back. But the biggest problem for the Trump campaign is, by all points, he seemed to be trailing by 3, 4, 5 points going into it. So even if he has no negative effect, it certainly at least makes it challenging that he would be able to grow his base of voters in the final few weeks, barring another major event.
Would you say debates actually matter? Do they actually affect the undecided voter?
I think they matter less than sometimes we cover them, meaning they've mattered historically, less so now because we're getting our information from so many sources. They seem like they matter maybe for a few days, but those long-term effects, again, they tend to kind of weed themselves out back to where it was before the debate at the end.
Okay, Dr. Joe Kaboski, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We also asked students on campus what they thought about Sunday's debate.
It was interesting. It was a lot of insults. I felt like most of it was insults.
That both candidates did a lot of question dodging, and that neither of them really answered the nitty-gritty like policy issues. However, I did like the second debate, like the town hall debate, more so than the first one.
I thought he did fine, but it wasn't surprising to me. I feel like he should have touched more on policy, but he didn't.
At 6:30, the College Republicans and Democrats will face off in Hamilton 100. They will discuss local, state, and party politics.
The North Carolina governor's race is one of the nation's closest, and last night the 2 candidates went head-to-head. Republican Governor Pat McCrory and Democratic challenger Roy Cooper squared off in their first televised debate, moderated by NBC's Chuck Todd. House Bill 2 quickly took center stage as Cooper criticized McCrory's controversial legislation, saying that it legalized discrimination. McCrory focused on his statewide tax cuts and low unemployment rates. The two also debated teacher pay, race relations, and economic stability. UNC is celebrating its birthday, and it's a big one. We'll take you inside the festivities coming up next. UNC is now 223 years old, and birthdays are a big deal for the university. The celebration is actually a campus holiday called University Day. University Day serves as a reminder of the university's past and a celebration of its future. The school canceled classes Tuesday morning so the campus community could participate. Chancellor Folt, along with faculty and staff, marched into Memorial Hall, where they commemorated the laying of the cornerstone of Old East in 1793. Faculty presented distinguished awards to recognize Tar Heels who've made outstanding contributions to humanity. Vice Provost of Enrollment and Undergraduate Admissions, Stephen Farmer, served as a keynote speaker for the event. Participants say University Day is a way to reflect on all the great things the institution has done in its 223-year history.
This celebrates the tradition, the history, excellence of Carolina, and as a class representative and as just a Carolina student in Carolina atmosphere, that's what we do.
Tomorrow is another big day on campus. UNC will host the inauguration of UNC System President Margaret Spellings. UNC course evaluations may soon be made public. The university wants to change the focus of evaluations to be about the course instead of the instructor. The reviews are intended to assist students when registering for classes.
A Latino group at UNC is demanding for a space on campus for their community to gather. The group Latinx Unity Council says there's currently no place on campus where the Latino community, which makes up 7.8% of the undergraduate student body, can gather and have events. Their slogan, Estamos aquí UNC, we are here UNC, also calls for more visibility of the Latino community on campus.
We want representation, we want a voice, and we want space on this university because we need somewhere to feel at home, because the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill is our home, but we need this space for the Latinx community.
The university says it will meet with the Latino student group to discuss finding them a designated space on campus.
Students and faculty joined together Tuesday for National Coming Out Day. The Lambda Law Students Association hosted a celebration that featured Charlotte Mayor Jennifer Roberts. She spoke about her efforts to keep Charlotte at the forefront of LGBTQ advocacy and the importance of people feeling safe when coming out. Also part of National Coming Out Day celebration, Michael Sam, the first publicly gay player to be drafted in the NFL. Sam shared his emotional story of abuse, adversity, and acceptance. He spoke about his struggles with accepting himself as a gay man and the relief he felt after coming out to his University of Missouri teammates. The St. Louis Rams cut Sam at the end of training camp 2 years ago. He says he's now looking to make an impact outside of football.
I really appreciated him being vulnerable on that stage and telling us his story and how it still impacts him to this day. The fact that your coming out might be important to someone else who's figuring out who they are and how that might influence them for the better.
Sam now tours the country giving speeches.
Forget Coachella and Lollapalooza, we have our very own music festival right around the corner in Pittsburgh. People braved the hurricane and the mud to go to Shakori Hills Grassroots Festival over the weekend. Musicians performed, food vendors and local artisans sold their products, and festival goers danced and took in the atmosphere. Juliet Wageman has been coming to the festival for 7 years. The festival will be held in May of next year.
The skies are clear and the sun is out, but there's still a chill in the air. Can we expect a warm-up this weekend? Meteorologist Alex Clement is up next with the weather.
Hey, thanks for staying with us today. I'm meteorologist Alex Clement with your Carolina Week weather. Before I get started, a couple of things I want to say is whenever there is a situation like we had last weekend, it is definitely imperative that you pay attention to your local and state emergency officials. Whenever they tell you that there is an evacuation, they mean it. It's not a suggestion. The three rivers that are currently giving us problems with the eastern part of the state are the Tar River, the Neuse River, and the Cape Fear River. The Neuse River still specifically because the Tar River is actually expected to crest in Greenville this weekend, and it's moving on down to Kinston, and that's not expected to crest until Saturday. If we take a look at the surface map, you can see that there's nothing in the way of precipitation over our state right now, and that's due to this high pressure system, which has brought us beautiful weather, and it's going to continue to bring us beautiful weather for the rest of the week. If we look back to the east here, though, you can see that there is a cold front that is moving across the country and will be passing over at some point this weekend, but the moisture associated with this here will stay to the north and dissipate. So by the time it gets to our state, there will be nothing in the way of rain, so we can't handle any more rain at the moment, so that's definitely good news. There's another high up here behind it that's going to take its place, bringing us more beautiful weather, cooler temperatures, but beautiful weather into next week. If you take a look at the radar, you can see that down here off the coast there are some showers, but they're not moving this way, so don't worry about that. From the coast to the mountains, there's no rain happening over North Carolina at this moment, and that's going to be the trend over at least the next 5 days. Today we topped out at 71, mostly sunny with winds light and variable. We're going to hold on to those light and variable winds overnight, but the clear skies are going to let the heat out, and we're going to drop down to the low 50s. For tomorrow, I have your breakdown on the way out the door. We're going to be at 54 degrees at 8 a.m., getting up to 70 around noon, and then 75 around 3. We will top out around 78, which is nice because tomorrow also happens to be the first day of the fair, which I have organized with ribbons. Sunday, you've got a great day. It's going to be the warmest day, so I give it the blue ribbon. Saturday is the second best, and Friday is the third, but great weather all weekend long, so no matter which day you decide to go on, it's going to be perfect. Just take your hoodie because after sunset, it will get chilly. And for your 5-day forecast, here you can see that we have 78 tomorrow. You'll be in the 60s over the weekend, getting back up into the 70s on Sunday with your lows in the lower 50s and upper 40s for the rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Alex. I know I'm definitely looking forward to going to the fair this weekend, get all that famous fried food. Will you be there? And if so, what will you be eating?
Large turkey leg, those are my favorite. Funnel cake for sure, and I haven't had one of those deep fried Oreos.
You have to have them. They're fantastic. That's what I'm looking forward to this weekend. So.
Are they really as good as they say they are?
They really are, and I was really surprised about it too.
Okay, I'll have to check it out.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alex. When Carolina Week returns, women's soccer had a monumental win over the weekend.
Welcome back to Sports Extra. I'm Peyton Walker with Sports. Carolina Week, this is Sports. After dropping a game to Virginia this weekend, the men's soccer team looked for vengeance against UNC Asheville last night. The goals came early and often as Walker Hume set up this beautiful shot from Mauricio Pineda, and this isn't deja vu. Hume set up the same play 8 minutes later with a header to Pineda again, and the Heels continued to dominate Asheville in the second half, with Jeremy Kelly scoring as soon as he touches the ball. Niels Bruning scored the last goal with the pass from David Mejia, ending the game 7-0. Now, the women's soccer team took action on Sunday, and head coach Anson Durrance looked for a major career milestone. The Heels took on the Demon Deacons after beating Miami earlier in the week, and after Wake Forest took an early lead on this rebound goal by Peyton Pereira, Carolina responded moments later with Rue Mucherera's first career goal as a Tar Heel. But UNC finally turned things around in the second half. Sophomore Dorian Bailey's set-piece goal put the Heels ahead for good and proved to be the game winner in the 2-1 victory, earning a happy coach Anson Durrance his 800th career win.
This sort of milestone is a combination of the extraordinary collection of athletes that I've been privileged to coach, but also longevity, obviously. And the privilege of working at a school like this is fantastic.
After the football team's disappointing performance this weekend, we do have some good news ahead, with basketball being right around the corner. The team held Media Day yesterday. In preparation for Carolina's first game scheduled to tip off November 4th, UNC's been hitting the court. Even with the loss of Bryce and Marcus, still lots of returning stars this year, and even a few new members like freshman Shea Rush you saw just there are predicted to do big things. Coach says he has full confidence in these boys so long as they persevere.
How do you handle adversity? How do you handle mistakes? How do you handle the little aches and pains? The adversity they're going to handle because how difficult it is.
I know with basketball season coming up, Late Night with Roy is this Friday. I know I'm going to try to line up early to get there. It starts at
7:30 Friday in the Dean Dome.
It's always a blast.
It's going to be exciting.
So it'll be great. Thank you so much.
UNC football players are fast and physical, but this one is particularly smart. That's up next on Carolina Week.
Merit Scholarship is arguably one of the most competitive, prestigious awards at UNC.
But for students like Jacob Schmidt, being a scholar just isn't enough. Lindsay Sparrow tells us more.
Jacob Schmidt is a Moorhead Kane scholar.
Monday through Thursday, I wake up at about 6:30, go down to the stadium and get breakfast. And then I've got 8 a.m. classes every morning.
That's the normal busy early morning schedule for UNC sophomore in football walk-on before he heads back to Keenan Football Stadium to hit the books and hit the field.
We go to practice for 2.5-ish hours. And then by that time it's 7 or 8 o'clock. So you just go home and start studying and then go to sleep and do it all over again.
The Moorhead Kane Scholarship Committee evaluated Schmidt on his scholarship, leadership, character, and physical vigor while he was a high school student, hoping he'd bring those characteristics to Carolina. And he's certainly trying to make a mark.
Varsity football team, I am in Chi Psi, and I was pre-admitted to the business school.
Moorhead selections officer Mariah Keller says the Moorhead Committee isn't looking for students just to do certain things or check certain boxes.
Mostly we want them to be having an impact on Carolina in ways that are meaningful and important to them. And we hope that maybe they'll continue to do things that they were interested in, or maybe they'll develop totally new interests, and that's absolutely fine. And I think Jacob is certainly doing that. He's a great example of a student who has really just used the resources available to him.
And the key to juggling numerous extracurriculars, Schmidt says, time management.
I always just have a plan for the day, and I pretty much stick to that plan just because if I get off, then things can go crazy. But you can make anything work if you put your mind to it.
Playing hard and studying hard, Schmidt says that's how he wants to look back on his time at Carolina. In Chapel Hill, I'm Lindsay Sparrow reporting.
Wow, that's amazing to be juggling all those classes and sports on top of that. That's amazing.
I know, I have just classes and work, and that enough is plenty for me, so I can't imagine adding practice schedules and I'm sure training in the gyms. Right. The life of a student athlete is something I will admire from afar.
It's not obvious to me, but.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for watching. Have a good night.